let's go over it. I'm going to go over the balance, everything the way I see it, and we're going to skip over some things that I might not know enough about. And honestly, since we've been looking over this patch all day, and I feel like we have a pretty good grasp on the things that I personally like or don't like, or my opinions on them, we're going to go over the patch, not figure out. We're going to go over the patch. I'm going to go over like the big highlights. Anything that I don't know a grand ton about, I'm just going to skip over a little bit. I'll mention it. And people who know more maybe can chime in on it. But anyways, I'm going to go over the whole thing because we did it earlier, but I feel like we've not changed our opinion, but more refined our opinion on some of this stuff. So anyways, proxy system. This is their built-in, almost like VPN system that lowers your ping to their game. It was not operating correctly when the game launched. It is now operating correctly, and they have an option to turn it on and off when you're logging in. That's the gist of that. And good. It sounds like a great little thing to make higher ping a little more bearable. So that's good. Anyways, reputation and profession reset. We now get every single profession that we have gets a free reset, which is good. And they dialed back the Raven coins. So basically it was going to be Raven coins. Feedback from the community came in. No one liked it. It was a clear advantage to be able to reset your stuff over and over. So they've changed it from Raven coins to Dawn Essence, which I think everyone is really happy about. I'm very happy about it. I think the Raven coins did step one step too far into pay to win territory. So I'm really glad that they dialed it back. And then we all get a free reset of every single tree. So every profession and your main reputation points, all of those get one free reset, which is good. General changes. Possessed by Resentment is essentially now doable. I guess it wasn't spawning enough at all, so it's triggered more often. Apparently, I don't know if anyone's tried to do it, but it still is pretty tough to do, I believe. But I haven't tried it yet. Additional war mode channel. Channel 10 is missing. Channel 10 is missing, and it's been replaced by a war mode channel. So I don't know if they're going to change that, but legit, channel 10 is missing, and it is now a war mode channel. We get channel 1, 2, and 3. I'm kind of hoping, I don't know if they need to squish channels at all. When we spoke with Niter, he was saying that during prime time, if they were to squish too many channels, we'd see queues again. So I'm assuming it's what we had before was queues during the day, and then, full channels at night. I think now we're seeing full channels during the day, but it's a bit quiet at night. And I don't like that too much because I play at night. So hopefully they get some sort of system in to squash channels throughout the day based on demand. That would be great. That would be, I don't know, that would be a great feature, but obviously that's a lot of work. Closing and opening channels on the fly, I'm sure, is not simple. But yeah, anyways, going off on a tangent, we have one additional war mode channel. I'm pretty sure they're going to slowly phase out regular channels and put war mode channels in until there's a good balance between the two. They always are going to have each type of channel, but I think they're going to get more and more war mode because as people level, they want to go to war mode more and more. So we have one extra war mode channel. Ranger Company, they've adjusted a bunch of the rank 9 things, just a bunch of balance changes. I don't know anything about this. We're not rank 9. A lot of people aren't rank 9. They're trying to balance it before people really get there to avoid changing it later. And, letting the people get there make mistakes. They tried to run a balance change over all of the rank 9 things. I don't know if there's any sub rank 9 stuff in here, but yeah, just the rewards you can purchase from the bounty board getting adjustments. And I'm not going to go over each one because I don't know enough about them. And they're really minor changes, mostly cost changes, I think. It's mostly just cost changes. Actually, it is only just cost changes, I guess. Anyways, rank 9 stuff. I'm not going to lie. I skipped over that when I saw it because I was like, rank 9's pretty far. Okay. Fixes. This is just bug fixes. I don't think there's anything major in here. A couple nice things that were broken are no longer broken. You can look through each one. They're not anything super notable. I don't feel like there's any major issue making the game unplayable via a bug. So just general issues taken care of. This is the big ticket thing on this. A lot of people are torn on the balance changes, as is going to be anytime there's a lot of nerfs. And in this one, there is a lot of nerfs. So I'm going to go over the balance change real quick. How I see it, I might not be correct in my assessment, but I have played a lot of builds. And so, yeah, we have Feasting Strike is getting changed. Well, it was changed. This is not the typical way that people use Feasting Strike. Most people are using Polar Bear with Feasting Strike. That's a card that makes it so your auto attacks do lifesteal. They didn't change that one in any way. They have just adjusted the other card and the base way that Feasting Strike works, which is usually changed when you use Polar Bear. So now Feasting Strike, the the other side of it, the just general skill use with the other card has been buffed. They buffed the heal per Aether consumed from 36 to 40, and the subsequent card, which is located way down, is also buffed. I don't know if this is great. I only know of one person that used it like this, so maybe this will put it more into use. And they explained that here, that it wasn't seeing enough use. Bladestorm was buffed. They also changed the way it gets channeled, so maybe it'll feel a little better when using it. But Bladestorm was undertuned. I would say my biggest problem with Bladestorm is almost the health loss you would experience, and I hated it. But anyways, they increased the base heal. They reduced the health cost. So overall, the whole thing was just tweaked in a way that hopefully will bring it more into a more playable state. Because when I was trying to use Bladestorm in my build, it was killing me. And it wasn't doing enough healing or damage to make it worth it, especially over other trees with big AoEs. Rain of Arrows from Archery and Wizard with all its different AoE moves. It just felt far superior to Bladestorm. So hopefully Bladestorm buff is looking good. Hatred, I'm going to be honest, I never used it. I don't know a ton about it. But from what I understand, it has been buffed pretty well. Tote mentioned earlier that it's been buffed. Very knowledgeable at the game. If he says it's buffed really strong now, I would believe it. So Hatred has been buffed. Bloodbath, I don't think much has changed. Added an icon to the player's debuff status bar to show, oh, passive's remaining cooldown. That's huge. Bloodbath is the passive that has a fairly long cooldown. And usually you don't know when it's going to pop. You can just sort of feel it when it pops. So now we have a cooldown to show that. So that's good. Witchcraft nerfs. So I have a problem with 2 of the nerfs in here. I'm going to go over all of them real quick. Leech was adjusted down even further than this, and it's been bumped back up. So now the duration is reduced from... Actually, the nerf was different before, and now they changed it. I'm not going to go over what it was before. What they've changed it to now is reducing leech duration by 2 seconds. It doesn't work the CD thing. Oh, really? 40 seconds, but it doesn't seem to find the CD. Oh, true. Okay, so the bloodbath thing is not working currently. It's nowhere to be seen. Okay, well, hopefully they fix that. I would love some more feedback on like what buffs and debuffs you have on at any time. But they're talking about the sustain capabilities. Eternal Worms was nerfed to 50%. I thought that was a very strong change. They've adjusted it. It's 15% down, which actually isn't 15% down. It's I don't know the exact number, 25% or 20%, I think. Is that 20% down? I'm not looking at the raw numbers. I'm looking at how much it was compared to what it is. But anyways, it's going from 75% heal to a 60% heal. A bit of a nerf on Eternal Worms. Shackles is where it's something I don't like. So I do a lot of witchcraft. I think a lot of people do. And I'm not actually liking how Shackles was nerfed, because to me, Shackles is an in the moment, hit the button during something big happening. You know, 2 people are about to aggro on you, usually 1 second in or 2 seconds in. At some point, you're going to feel the need of like, oh, they're about to really hit me with something big, right? That's when you pop Shackles. And it's hard to determine or plan for that exactly when it's going to hit, right? You pull too many mobs, you hit the Shackles, right? Right when you think they're going to hit. And so it's off global cooldown. It's like an interrupt almost. It's off global cooldown. You can hit it in an instant, and it's a very good move. It feels great, right? Now, I don't have a problem with nerfing the effectiveness of it, but what they've done is add 50 Aether reduction, or 50 Aether cost to it, which I hate, because it being such an in the moment move, it is sucky to like be in the middle of your rotation. You've popped Magic Rupture on the target. You need to then stack them up one more time and hit him with an Arcane Torrent. You're going to need 50 Aether for that Arcane Torrent, but suddenly you feel the need to hit Shackles of Pain. You hit Shackles of Pain, which gives the enemy some damage, but now you've screwed up your rotation. The Magic Rupture that was going to boost your Arcane Torrent by 20% falls off. So you just lost 20% of damage that you were going to get because you interrupted your rotation with Shackles of Pain, right? I don't like that. There's a lot of situations like that where you're building up, especially with Witchcraft and some of these builds, where you're building up something, you're about to get like a 15% bonus or a 20% bonus, or you just pierced them real big and you need to pop a move, but Shackles totally ruined your rotation because it sucked 50 Aether out of your rotation. And now you got to stop. And when you pop the move, it's going to just suck. Was that damage you reflected onto the target worth the damage you just lost by screwing your rotation? I say no. I don't even use it anymore. I think it's awful. Like, it feels awful. I wish that I could use this at a 25% without the Aether cost and it not suck Aether from me. I wish that they had just reduced the effectiveness of this by half at all times. If that's what was needed, and leave my Aether alone because it ruins rotations and I just can't use it on my build anymore because of how bad that feels. It doesn't feel good. So that's the first piece that I don't know. I just have some general criticism on how it's changing because it doesn't feel good in the gameplay. And it feels so bad that I just don't want to use it right now. So yeah, anyways, Shackles was added an Aether cost and I don't like it. Magic Rupture was reduced from 8 seconds to 6 seconds. It's just a nerf. Not a fan, but you're never going to be a fan when something gets nerfed that you like. So it is what it is. This is fine. Exploitation was also reduced. I think 30 seconds was a lot. So it reducing to 20 seconds is actually fine. Death Touch is the other one where I feel like the method in which it was nerfed wasn't great. Which card are you using on Dispel? The one that heals me right now. I'm experimenting with it. I don't know how I feel, but I didn't like Siphon. I felt like Siphon wasn't worth taking. So I took the one, and that's also partially because I can't use the Magic Rupture boost to Siphon potentially because I'm using it on Arcane Torrent. So Siphon just doesn't fit into my build very well. I already have 2 other channeled abilities, Arcane Torrent and Quickfire. So it just doesn't work great. But yeah, so Death Touch. This is the other one that I, out of all the buffs and nerfs, I feel like I disagree with this one because of how it was done. So they changed Death Touch so that Death Touch now does pretty much the damage it did before. Pretty much the damage it did before if the target is below 50% HP. Now that's fine and all. It's like an execute, but in my mind and in most games, executes are typically lower cooldown, something like 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and they're usually not that much damage, but if you're going to execute, they do a lot more damage. Similar to how Guillotine works. It's a good execute example. That's a good move that can execute. Now, this just does more damage when they're below 50% health. So in practice, that actually is all fine. But this completely invalidates a card that I really love in Witchcraft, essentially making the card unusable. And I don't like that. So I'm going to pull up here, Witchcraft, Death Touch, Contagious Spore Walker. No, sorry, Troll Warlock. Troll Warlock is a fantastic card. Basically, when you Death Touch something, it takes the curse that you required to have on it, removes it, and puts an empowered curse on, because Death Touch always removes the curse. It puts an empowered curse on that does 30% more than a regular curse, and you can also stack curse on top of that. That's a fun, interesting piece of gameplay. I like it. It also spreads the curse to other targets. Witchcraft is not the best at AoE. Just the one piece of AoE that was decent in it. Now, if you have to use Death Touch on a target under 50% HP, this is now unusable. Like, what's the point of this? It doesn't have any point. If you're going to get an empowered curse on a target that now is probably 5% HP, that empowered curse is not doing anything. It's pointless. It doesn't do like, and if you're just like, oh, well, I'll just open with it to get the empowered curse, the damage you're missing out on by it not being sub 50% does not make that empowered curse worth it in any way. So the card is essentially unusable now. I don't like it. I think that either Death Curse should be nerfed in a different way, or they should change how this card works. One of the two things. Otherwise, you have two mechanics that don't make sense. They don't make sense together. I also don't like the other card whatsoever. And I can explain that. Like, you could just say like, oh, just use the other card. Now that still doesn't excuse this card being completely useless. But the other card is if you kill the target, it reduces the cooldown by 25%. I hate this. It's not an execute. It does a raw amount of damage if they're sub 50% HP. And it does a lot. It can do up to like 2k at my level. 2,000 damage. You want to get the full use of 2,000 damage out of it. Nothing feels worse than throwing a Death Touch at something you know it's going to kill, and it was like 600 damage. It's like, well, I could have just thrown Whirlwind at it. For 600 damage, why did I waste my 1 minute cooldown so that I could get 15 seconds off of the cooldown? That's just useless. The proper way to use Death Touch is right when it hits 50%, because it's going to get it really close, if not kill it. But trying to play HP chicken with the enemy to be like, where is that 2,000 mark so that I can get the full use out of my Death Touch and get the cooldown lowered, it doesn't feel good. It's not fun gameplay to me. I hate it. So I don't like Contagious Spore Walker either. I would love to see a bit of a change to Death Touch, because I don't like the nerf that it was given. But let's continue. Let's do this one. All right, moving on. Creeping Death. Creeping Death damage multiplier increased from 15 to 30, and the Curse Touch damage multiplier going from 30 to 20. These are the two dot bonuses that Witchcraft has. Curse Touch always works. This is the 30% one. It goes from 30 to 20. And Creeping Death is the one where if they're under 50% HP, they'll now receive 30% extra damage instead of 15. Honestly, I don't mind this. I didn't like it at first. I tried it all out today. It still seems fine. I was watching my damage go up pretty far when they go under 50% HP. Honestly, this combined with the Death Touch, which I'm no longer using, does make Witchcraft more of an execute style build, which maybe that's what they're going for. But again, Death Touch needs a better card for it, in my opinion. Maybe 2 better cards because I hate them both. Anyways, the Creeping Death and the Curse Touch changes, I don't mind. They're good. I mean, it's probably overall a negative to Witchcraft, but still it doesn't feel that bad. But let's move on. Barrier got gutted. Not a fan. It's getting a pretty long cooldown, 15 to 18 seconds, and the duration's going from 8 seconds to 6 seconds. This is Spiritual's one big draw to use, so I don't like that Barrier got nerfed this hard, but if it was warranted, it was warranted. I'm not the best judge of this because I use this a lot. And anytime something you use a lot gets nerfed, it's not going to feel great. So, can confirm, doesn't feel great, but it doesn't change fundamentally how the spell is used, so it's not the worst. But yeah, anyways, we've decided to reduce the uptime of the skill. So yeah, we'll just see how it goes. I was using it all today. It didn't feel that bad, but yeah, it did get heavy nerfed. Air Aura also loses some of its appeal. The mana cost was extremely low. I remember popping it for like 40 mana. That got increased, that got doubled. And the shield goes from a max 50% of your health bar to 40%. That's not a huge nerf, but it is a nerf. And the time the damage you receive to be converted to a barrier was increased from 2 seconds to 4 seconds. I actually don't mind this that much, this part, because when you would pop Air Aura, sometimes you wouldn't take enough damage in that 2 seconds. And so you wouldn't get the full benefit from the shield. So in a way, Air Aura does receive some sort of buff with this. I haven't tested this today, but maybe we should. Maybe it's not too bad. I do like the 2 seconds to 4 seconds change on it. But it goes over investing all points into intelligence and dexterity. So they're basically nerfing it a bit because people who were using spiritual that didn't have any intelligence were using Air Aura and they felt there was too much value in it. But yeah, these two received a decent, like, I don't know, some bit of a nerf. This also does mean that the shield comes out later, by the way, 4 seconds later. So there is also kind of a nerf aspect to that, but it's more of a rework to an extent. But yeah, anyways, Divine Purpose and Protection. The cooldown per stack was removed. The duration was increased from 6 to 8. Which one was Divine Purpose? I didn't look into this one, actually. Divine Purpose. Whenever you receive healing from any source, this is the one that increases your defense up to 20 stacks. This is essentially 10 defense at all times, as long as you're receiving healing every so often. Wait, cooldown. Wait, what? Was there a cooldown? I don't remember a cooldown per stack. Was there some sort of cooldown per stack on Divine Purpose? Am I looking at this right? This is Divine Purpose. Maybe someone give me some information on that. Let's continue, though. I don't know Divine Purpose super well. I've used it a couple times. After significant feedback as well as internal testing, we decided to remove the previously added cooldown. Oh, they must have added it, and I didn't even notice. To the passive stack. The time it was taking for Divine Purpose to offer all of its attributes to player builds was not enjoyable. The increase in duration is so the players have more comfortable skill cycles before losing their stacks, and they aren't stuck to 1 or 2 specific skills to keep it stacked. Literally making notes because the way you talk about patch notes is so fucking good. I don't know why I'm reading this out loud, but going over it beforehand is a big one. I don't even know if we're gonna keep this in video. Depends if I go through the video enough to cut this out, but I don't like to go over the patch notes when I first look at them. I read them over, and like I even read them over, went over it earlier, and I feel like it's better to go back now and go over it again because the first time I did it, I don't think it was good enough. Like and honestly, like looking at Divine Purpose, like there's so much in there's so much in this patch that it's tough to get everything down perfectly. But anyways, Undying Will. The health threshold for the passive to be activated increased from 10 to 20%. This is huge, actually. This is what gave us a huge defense bonus when you were under 10%. Now it's under 20%. And yeah, they're saying 10% is quite low in many situations. So Undying Will received the buff. Banner of Protection received a nerf, but it's a great nerf. Banner of Protection, the banner was almost unkillable. If you ever versed someone in PvP and they popped a Banner of Protection, you decided, you know what? I'm going to kill that because it's healing him. You would have quickly changed your mind like 2 seconds in and been like, well, this thing is freaking tanky. It had the same health as a player. I don't even know if 40% is enough of a nerf. But maybe. But yeah, I've been in situations in PvP where the guy pops a banner and I'm like, oh, that thing dies. I know what to do. And then like halfway through, I was like, yeah, this is taking way too long. It's like the whole duration of the banner. So good change here, especially for PvP. Spirit Shield got a nerf. I guess they thought it was too strong, so now it's on a pretty long cooldown. Shadow. I'm running out of breath. There's a lot in here. Crippling Dagger. It just changed where it sits in the skill tree. I guess to give more options to tier 3. They mention here about skill power focused builds. Crippling Dagger is not a skill power focused thing, but I guess it just has some general use that spell power builds could use. So they changed it from tier 4 to tier 3. And if I remember correct, tier 4 was pretty overloaded with moves. So I think it just gave more options. Technically a buff to Shadow because this skill now takes less points to put in. And then we have Venomous Weapon becomes a nice usable skill. It was pretty awful before. I guess this goes up a tier, but it is a really powerful skill. So it's losing a lot of its cooldown. It is also not consuming Aether anymore and will generate 20. And it also will apply because it lowers defense. It'll apply this defense lower on skills as well as auto attacks. So probably a pretty useful skill. I think it can go down to 10%. You can give the enemy a 10% defense debuff from Venomous Weapon. So seems quite usable. I haven't tested it myself, but it's a good buff, a massive buff. So we may see that in a lot of builds going forward. Wizardry. This one's controversial. Flame Tornado is going damage per tick from 60 to 80%. And the Flame Tornado is now a 3-second channel. So it gains some damage per tick, but it's also a very short channel. I believe overall it lost some damage, and you have to stand there and channel it. So it's a ton of damage, but you are sitting there channeling it. I have not tested this myself. I can't give a good opinion on how this feels. That's the gist of it. I'll probably test it out in the next few days, but this is the nerf. I do feel like when I was playing AoE build Wizardry the other day, that sometimes I was going through waves without using Flame Tornado. The combination of combustion, meteor, and ice were taking a lot of the waves out all on their own. Now, that's not always going to work with a big pull. It's just going to be different pull to pull. But there is still a lot of AoE potential in Wizardry without this. And then the other nerf was Cold Blast. Cold Blast is reduced from a 4-second to a 2.5. Now, this is only in PvP, this number. In PvE, it still snares for, I think, 5 seconds. So it was 8 seconds, which is entirely too long for mobs to sit there and not walk towards you. So that was reduced to 5 seconds. And then these numbers we're seeing here are PvP. Yeah, actually, it shows it down here. Cold Blast from 8 seconds to 5 seconds in PvE, and 4 seconds to 2.5 in PvP, which is massive because in PvP, being a melee build felt really bad if you didn't have a gap closer ready and you got Cold Blasted. It was awful. So this is probably a really good change. I don't know of anyone who doesn't feel like this wasn't warranted. But yeah. Moving on, Dawn Arrow, big cooldown increase, which I don't like because I use this. Again, anything that I use, I'm probably not going to like the fact that it was nerfed, but it might have been warranted. Dawn Arrow, I really liked for the damage increase because I get, as an int build that uses archery, there's very few options for int-based useful abilities. But this was one of them. And so the cooldown going up sucks. But I was using it today. It's not the worst. I've been dealing with it, so I don't know if it's that bad. But yeah. I want to do CC build. Now it's much worse due to that. Yeah, it's a little worse. It's a little worse. There's a lot of other things you rotate in. So it's not the end of the world. I've been using it today. It hasn't felt that bad. But yeah. Okay. Buffs and nerfs to Raven cards. I don't know if we're going to go through all of these because these are very specific. This gets even more specific. The ones that I have highlighted, Feasting Strike got a buff. This is the non-polar bear version. Pearl Shell Giant. This is the barrier on Spiritual. I hate that this was also nerfed. Like, barrier took a big hit in this patch, and it's one of my main core abilities. So to be seen if it was too much or what, but yeah, it's a blow. It's a big blow. Sinister Plot got changed, and this is the one that gives you Aether. I'm going to be honest, I haven't really dug into this super hard. So guys, I'm going to link the patch notes in this video. So if you are more interested in some of these things that I haven't talked about, the only reason I haven't talked about it is because I don't feel like I'm like an expert on it. And I don't want to just give you like oh man, Sinister Plot, this is a good or a bad change. I have no opinion because I haven't looked at it enough. I'm only giving you the stuff that I've played for ridiculous amounts of hours and can give you a solid opinion on why I like it or don't like it. But yeah, we'll move on. Dire Bear, I don't know if I can speak on a lot of these, but the Berserk move had both of its cards changed in a way. We got Leech was healing reduced. This is the auto attacks on leech. This was nerfed. This affects your auto attack builds that were taking witchcraft more than other builds. I take this and I use it, but builds that were more auto attack focused that took witchcraft just for this, they're receiving a nerf from this. So keep that in mind. The healing from shackles, which I didn't even like this card that much, so it is what it is. It's a further nerf to shackles. I don't know how I feel about it. This is the one that gave you healing if the target was healed. But yeah, again, shackles, I said my piece on it. I'm not even using it right now just because of how counterintuitive it feels while I'm trying to kill mobs. Oh, this is a nerf to a big nerf. Actually, I know this one. I didn't look at this before, but Hog Saboteur Erupt. This was basically a 4% chance on erupt damage to proc an AoE. This is now at 2.5%. I don't know if this is probably a pretty heavy hit to this. I was using this on my AoE because it was very effective. Every single mob that you hit, having a 4% chance, every dot tick every second to explode, I think it was 75% spell power to everything around it. Very, very strong. So they're almost halving that, which probably good. I don't know. I haven't tried it or felt it, but I do know that this felt crazy strong when I was using it. That's all I know. The Astro Demon Meteor Strike card, I can speak on this one as well, actually. 30% slow loss for 1 second was added to targets that stay on top of the fire. Oh, that's nice. This is the one that basically plants an area of fire on the floor. And yeah, that now has a slow added to it. So that's not bad. That's actually kind of huge for keeping things. I can't imagine now using Typhoon and Meteor Strike. That would be so hard to get out of. You Typhoon and Meteor Strike someone down. That would be nuts. Going on to the ice spells. I'm not going to go over it all. I'm going to give you the gist of some of the things that were changed here. This one here, the Blizzard Beast, I think this was the instant cast Ice Storm. It's getting reduced. I actually prefer the channeled Ice Storm because it did so much damage. But this one got reduced. I don't know how I feel about that because it felt weak to me already. So this might be over the top in my opinion. Ice Storm is hitting way harder than we'd like it to. With that in mind, reduce the damage from this Raven card. This is Ice Storm, right? Like this is the one where you just insta-cast it, right? If this is the case, I thought this was already feeling weak. So this is a pretty big nerf to that. Icicle Gazer. This is Frostbolt. This reworks how Frostlance works. This next bit. No, it's the other one. Wait, really? No, the other one doubles your power, doesn't it? Or was it? All right, we're going to look it up in game because now I'm unsure and I don't want to give wrong information. Ice Storm, Blizzard Beast. Oh, you're right. And that got way nerfed. Okay, interesting. This one's the no longer requires channeling. It was 50% of its damage. I see. And Blizzard Beast is the one that I was using, and now it does not as much damage. So yeah, I can see this. I was using this because it felt really strong. So maybe it warrants a nerf. I don't know. We will see. I have not tested it yet, so I can't really speak on how it feels now. Okay, so Frostbolt and Frostlance got changed. It was before, basically, and I have a build on this. It's the Arcanist build that I had highlighted on YouTube. But you would give something a deep freeze, and it would make all of your Frostlances crit and deal extra crit damage, right? And so you could, in the moment, pop that on things, which felt great. I don't know how it feels now, but this is how it works now. So instead of deep freeze being the thing that gives your Frostlances automatic crits, you have to deep freeze them 3 times. So your Frostbolts will apply deep freeze. Once you reach 3 stacks, it gives them a Frostbite stack. And I believe you have to get to 3 Frostbite stacks before your Frostlances will hit, right? Is that right? Or no, you stack deep freeze 3 times and then you get Frostbite. And when you have Frostbite, then you get the automatic crits on Frostlands. So it's a slower ramp up time, but they also added 25% to ignore the target's spell defense. So that in a way is also a buff, but it's a longer ramp up time. I don't know how this feels. I'm just saying how it is. So it's a longer ramp up time and a little bit more damage that your Frostlances are going to be doing now. I haven't tried it yet. We'll probably try it soon, but yeah. Let's continue. Ice Shell, Giant Cold Blast. Targets hit by Cold Blast are now in a deep freeze. Frostlances always crit. This has changed. So it's going to just apply Arctic Burn to the target for 6 seconds, and the burn deals damage every 2 seconds. And so Cold Blast is no longer going to apply a deep freeze. Does Teleport? Teleport still applies a deep freeze, right? Did they? I'm assuming that the Teleport card, we can check in game. Give me a sec. Teleport. No, it applies a cold blast, which no longer deep freezes. Ooh, I don't know how I feel about that. Is the only way to get a deep freeze on the target doing 3 frost bolts? Do you have to do 9 frost bolts in order to get a deep freeze on or to get frostbite on? That seems like too much if that's the case. We have to try this out, but that seems like way too much. If I'm reading that correctly, it's worded horribly. It's 5 frost bolts. Okay. So it's actually 5 frost bolts. So once it's in a deep freeze, does every frost bolt give an extra deep freeze stack? So basically you do 3, it goes into a deep freeze, and then you do 2 more. Okay. So each one after that ticks up your deep freeze. So it's 5 frost bolts. Okay. That seems not too bad. That seems fine. I got to try it out though. I don't know. It's a nerf and a rework all in one. There's some buff there. There's some nerf there. I don't know how it feels. That's just what it is now. I don't like that Cold Blast doesn't allow us to do that combo anymore because that combo is really fun. But we got to try this. We got to try it out. This is a big important part that I want to talk about. So we have changes coming in 1.0.6. This is on Tuesday. I like one of the changes and I don't like one of the other changes. So I'm going to kind of go over what they are and give my opinion on both. So the first one here is culling spawns. Basically, we're going to be able to collect while we're grinding on things. We're going to be able to get culled eyes. This is an item that's similar to how trade packs work. You're going to pick this item up. It's going to put a buff on you showing that you have this culled eye. Now, if you bring this eye over to Glademire, to an NPC, it'll give you EXP and Ravendust. Ravendust? Dawn Essence, sorry. It'll give you Dawn Essence and experience. That's the thing we use for cards, right? Now, you can collect these up. You can get more than one. So as you grind, you may accumulate culled eyes. I don't know how fast we're going to get them, but all in all, this seems like a fantastic mechanic because other people are going to be getting culled eyes and you're going to be able to see that, and that's going to spawn some PvP. You're going to be tempted by what the guy next to you has, and it's going to spark some conflict. The game needs more conflict. I also like it because if you don't like conflict, you can just throw these eyes out, right? Well, however that works, I'm sure you're just going to be able to opt in and say, I don't want this, right? So if you're not a fan of PvP, peace zones don't give these, and the war areas or conflict areas, you can just not do it. If you really want to not PvE, not deal with that, I think it's fantastic. It's a PvP mechanic. It's going to create incentive for PvP. I think it sounds great. I'm sure that however this comes into the game, if it needs to be tweaked or altered to be more fun or whatever, all in all, just sounds like a fantastic mechanic. I like it. It'll drive some PvP. This game needs more situations where we're like, oh, there's a reason for me to fight this guy. Because right now, it's mostly just mining and almost nothing else is happening. But they're working on those issues. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to add. But calling spawns is a good addition, in my opinion. So guilds are going to power level people with this, I feel. Oh, maybe. That's weird. I never considered that you could drop these cold eyes for someone else and then they could turn them all in. That's a very interesting concept. Didn't think about it. Maybe that'll be a problem. Maybe they'll have to fix that. But all in all, yeah, there could be, as with any brand new feature, especially with how fast they're developing this game, things that they add are going to be potentially needing adjustments, things that they haven't thought about, things that maybe we haven't even thought about yet. But culling spawns, I think, is a great addition. Now, the other bit, legendary fish. I don't like this change. The idea behind legendary fish, they explain it here, is to further add risk, but also higher reward to fishing in Ravendawn, which is desperately needed. Desperately. I'm at 25 fishing. Fishing is abysmal. The money you make is awful. The risk is non-existent. And honestly, it just sucks. It needs to be increased. We need higher reward. We need higher risk. This change, in my opinion, is not going to bring it whatsoever. Now, initially when they were, the idea and core concept behind this is every so many catches, you're going to get a legendary fish. Initially, they had it at 5% to catch a legendary fish, and now they have it at 1%. In concept, occasionally catching a legendary fish, and I didn't explain this fully, but it's similar to how the cold eyes work or trade packs work. When you catch a legendary fish, it'll be a buff under your bar. People will see that. They can gank you for it. And the idea behind this is as you fish, you're going to accumulate risk and then go back and turn it in. But unfortunately, the way this is being implemented, there's no way that this works because even at a 5% chance, you're likely in one full fishing run to really only gain one of these legendary fish. And they had it at a 5% chance and a 500% increase to how the fish would normally be worth. So, like, even at that rate, you're probably only getting one per run. And honestly, most players, when they get one, would probably go, oh, just turn it in real quick. So, like, I don't think that's going to increase people's risk. They're never going to sit on the field. And this one is even crazier because it's 1% chance and you get 2.5 thousand more percent bonus to it. To put this into perspective, a top level 20 fish legendary would be roughly 10 to 12K, and a top level 30 fish, when legendary, would be about 20K. Those are not great numbers when you consider how long it would take you to get this. 100 fish, that takes a minute. It takes a long time. And then also to consider that if you're fishing for 3 hours and you get a legendary fish, there is an absolute 0 chance you're sitting at that spawn continuing to fish when you were just handed 20K or 10K. You're going to go, I'm going to go back to shore. This is 10K. There's no way you're going to sit out there and go, well, maybe I get 2. There's no shot you're getting 2. It's freaking, it'll take 1 to 3 hours of fishing to get one of these fish. So in its current implemented state, how they say they're going to implement it, I think it does nothing for the risk reward of fishing. It does add some reward to fishing. It is still a negligible amount, especially considering that one trade pack run that would take me about 5 to 6 minutes. Each pack will net me, you know, somewhere between 7 and 13K. That is the price of one of these legendary fish that would take 1 to 3 hours to obtain. It's not even close. So I don't know if they're going to adjust this before it released on Tuesday, but I just want to air my concerns with this, that it won't work at all. I'm fairly confident it won't work at all. So really good change, followed by a not great one that I hope they adjust, because even if they release it like it is, I'm sure people will give the feedback. But I'm pretty confident that this does nothing to increase risk of fishing. But that's coming on Tuesday. We'll see how it goes. I am excited that they are producing this much content out at this speed. There's a lot of changes in here. This is probably the second or third balance patch we've gone through. I believe it's the second big one. But I love how they're doing things. I love how they lay out the information. I love the notes. I think there's some really good stuff in here. There's also, I don't know, they're just, yeah, the way they're doing things, I appreciate it. But guys, that'll wrap it up for the patch notes. If you guys like the video, I'd appreciate if you give a like. Otherwise, guys, thank you for watching, and we'll see you around.